Hey everybody, Dean Graziosi, welcome to the Weekly Wisdom. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here. Today, I want to talk about some things that I learned or was a part of last week. My good friend Joe Polish runs the Genius Mastermind Group, the Genius Network, and he had his annual event last week that was unbelievable, and he brought in some incredible speakers. I was very fortunate to be one of those speakers, and my good friend Tony Robbins, Peter Diamandis, who wrote the book Abundance. I love that book. What a thought leader he is. And John Paul Dejoria, I think that's how you say his last name, came in, had the chance to meet him and spend an hour listening to him. He's the creator of Paul Mitchell. And I wanted to share his story today, and I want to share some things Tony talked about and Peter talked about and what I shared on stage and so many other incredible speakers. So I just came away with I've been on fire ever since. But John Paul was a really special it was a really special presentation, or just a conversation. Him and Joe just sat up on stage and talked. My buddy Joe Polish, like I said. And I never knew that when he was in his early 20s, he had a 1.5-year-old son, and his wife or girlfriend at the time just left. And he ended up homeless with a 1.5-year-old, picking up bottles for 25 cents and 5 cents and cashing them in, and finally sleeping on someone's couch, and then became a janitor and a cook and so many other jobs. And then later in his 20s, he thought about Paul Mitchell, and he put all his money and ran out of money and was homeless again, and he started Paul Mitchell with $700 and started just going salon to salon with the stuff in his trunk, with trying to be a dad, a single dad. Unbelievable. The reason I'm sharing this is because we all have stories, and there's so many incredible rags to riches or inspiring stories. But what I loved about John Paul and his story was how humble he was through all of it. And of course, people want to know, hey, how'd you do it? I mean, he went on to make Paul Mitchell what it is today. Yeah, Paul Mitchell, unbelievable brand, right? But then he created Patron Tequila. He said he liked to drink once in a while, and tequila was so strong you wanted to throw up. He goes, I wanted to make a tequila that tasted good, or you could sip it on ice. Everybody told me he was crazy. And he forged through, and look what Patron Tequila is today. He's worth $3.8 billion. The guy has so many humanitarian things going on, you wouldn't believe it. The guy does more with his money. He's already pledged to give away half of his wealth to charity. Him, along with Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and a lot of other really wealthy people, giving it back, But the reason I wanted to share, because there's two things that really stood out, is one, everything he tried to do along the way, without him even saying it out loud, people told him he was crazy. $700 in his pocket, totally broke, and starts Paul Mitchell, the greatest brand ever. And people say to him, yeah, but that was back then. It was easier to get in business. And he said, really? It was easier to get in business? There was no internet. If I wanted to make copies, I had to go find a computer or a copy machine. I had a runoff thing. I couldn't email. If I wanted to communicate with somebody, I had to call them or send them a letter and wait for the reply. I couldn't get things on my phone in my back pocket like you can today. I couldn't get virtual assistants. I couldn't do any of that. I didn't have any of that opportunity, or crowdsourcing or crowdfunding. He said, so I don't think so. And then he said, when I went into business, the unemployment rate was 11%. Think about that. Unemployment at 11%. Inflation through the roof. You couldn't even get gas. There was lines for gas, and interest rates were 18%. So he said, no, that's just a story people tell themselves. Now it doesn't work. No, it always works if you're ready to work it. And the second big thing that really stood out to me, someone had raised their hand and asked them a question. It was a small, intimate group, and said, if you had anything you could say is the one secret to your success. And he thought for just a second, and he said, the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have done to you. He said, with all the thousands of employees he's had through the years with the Paul Mitchell system and with Patron and all his other companies, he's only had 70 people leave turnover. 70. Think about that. He said because he wants his employees to know he cares. He treats them the way he wants to be treated. He said so many of them put in overtime and stay with his company because they know they're a part of something bigger. So the message I got, and I was inspired, third, one more thing is, and I shared this a couple weeks ago, trust your gut. Your gut is your subconscious taking in all this information, and it makes good decisions. You just have to trust it. So I'm going to boil it down to these three things that made a massive impact on me. It had me on fire, excited. I literally wrote him a letter afterwards because I wanted to thank him. One, is people are going to always tell you you're nuts when you go against the grain or you do something they're afraid to do. You need to follow your heart. If you know where you want to go, it's much better to know where you want to go and fail than think about what if. What if is the hardest thing for all of us. When you're on your deathbed, you're not going to think about the things you did. You're going to most regret the ones you didn't have the will to follow through, even if you failed. Second, do unto others as you want done to you in all areas of your life. You want more love? Give more love. Want to make more money? Help people make money. That's the rule that I look in my life, and that's when I've gone the furthest. And last, trust your gut. Those three things for me, coming from a guy that I respect, I admire, and just an incredible guy doing wonderful things. John Paul, if you watch this, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for all that you do, and continue the great work. For everybody watching, just taking a lesson from someone doing it right. You want to learn how to play tennis? Play with a world pro who kicks your butt and let him give you the secrets. Practice makes permanent. The right practice get you to the next level. I'm Dean Graziosi. Thanks for watching. Join us again here next week. And if you don't have my New York Times best-selling books, you can get two of them for free. Just go to deansfreebook.com. That's deansfreebook.com, and you can grab them. One's a personal development book. One's how to make money with real estate. If you want one or the other or both, go grab them. If you're at deangraziosi.com, it's right up here. Take care.